All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Answer the Call. This one is a little bit different. So, this is going to be a viewer call ins episode. This is something we want to do every other week because getting the same content creators every week, which is probably going to be the case, is going to get kind of boring. And I think having viewer call ins is something that's a little bit different, where it's sort of like I don't know, almost like a sports radio show where you can kind of discuss a topic about your favorite sports team or whatever. So, as always, with Answer the Call, it's a 30-minute show. It's me, one other person at a time, at least for this one, but one topic in specific. And this topic is, what is the minimum viable product of Star Citizen? We saw the road to release at CitizenCon. It was very vague. It was very weird. Chris Roberts basically was like, well, the game is already sort of released and we're just going to be building it out. And when we actually consider it released is when server meshing comes in. Our 12 pillars are finished. And he also said, irregardless of what feature sets are in game, what gameplay loops, how many planets, how many star systems, all those things. So I kind of want to hear your thoughts on that. Am I overthinking it? Is it too early still to tell? Are you not even paying attention to anything Chris says at this point? Because everything that he said as far as release elements to Star Citizen haven't in history always really worked out. So we do have at least one caller on the line today. It's Sergey Novak, or better known as ASN. And I got a nice little image for me. I know right now there's nobody over there, but there's you guys. There's you guys ready to go in. So we got somebody on the line, ASN. Let's hear what he has to say. Hey, ASN.
Hello.
What's up, man?
Hey, I'm good. What's up with you?
Not much. So what do you think? What do you think about the road to release?
Honestly, like I'm gonna bring a game dev perspective into what was showcased,
Okay.
and I think it was quite reasonable because essentially, like, what players are looking for in a game is more of the area of space or the locations or all the other things. Like the perspective is a bit different because when developers look at games, they're like, okay, how many systems are there to support a gameplay experience, and how can we make these happen together?
Mm-hmm.
When a player looks at a game, it's like, okay, how
How
many
do I
planets
play
do I
it?
have? How many moons? Like, how do I play it? What kind of mechanics are in there for me? So, like, there are two clashing perspectives, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I think Star Citizen is a combination of different game mechanics, and it's what makes it unique, not the number of planets that are in the game. So that's kind of my perspective.
Yeah, and I see where he's coming from. Like, all of these are all the major tech milestones that they have to achieve in order to have the experiences that they want us to have. And I think
Mm.
what a lot of people are freaking out about is all right, well, object container streaming took 2 years for them to do, right? Server meshing, they've
Mm.
already said, is a major feat that they're going to have to overcome. They don't just work on these like those tech parts while they're making the game. They also add gameplay loops and features and ships and planets and moons and water and other things to the game that they haven't had before. So I do think some people are freaking out a little bit. I just don't like the openness of the talk that he had. I think it really opens it to never-ending development.
A lot of commentary.
Yeah, never-ending development as well, which is okay because it's an MMO. That's what like WoW is in never-ending development, right? That's what it is. But I think it leaves a lot of questions and about what is beta now. When are things going to get balanced? When are these gameplay features going to come in? Because like you said, we look at it like, well, when are we going to see salvaging? When am I going to see info running? Because he didn't say anything about it. Well, Go ahead though.
It's hard to put a date on those things because I know how complicated building a future is.
Yeah.
It's really something that you really cannot put a date on. But I understand. I think the concern of the community comes from the fact that the game is being cut down. That's generally
Yeah.
the concern because it's taking so long, and people's expectation is 3 times the product that is up right now, maybe even 5 times or 10 times. So people, whenever they hear, oh, a road to release is these, 3-4 milestones to go, then they expect, oh, it's going to be way less of what we were promised. But like essentially, the way I look at it is to analyze it in a good manner. You need to look at what is in as systems and mechanics at beta or at release instead of an arbitrary number of factors. Like, oh, we have 5 systems. Like, what does 5 systems mean? You can have 5 Baron systems,
Well, yeah, and 5
And
systems means a lot different now than what they did when
they
the
said it.
game was first initially thought of, right? Where
Yeah,
5
yeah.
systems
So
would have been like, okay, well, I automatically land down on this planet. I can only stay in this one small area, and so on and so forth. So there would be very limited gameplay on that planet compared to the amount of gameplay that we already have now on a moon,
yeah.
right?
And the thing about the parallel game dev is like a lot of people still do not analyze this, but the roadmap is a good tool to analyze it. You can
Oh, yeah.
actually can see how many ships they can release per month and how many game mechanics they can get in a year after their production is now way smoother. So I think like from the way I look at it, I am expecting like a 2020-ish release date for a minimum
I think
wild
that's
product.
fair. Yeah.
And a beta in late 2019. And the reason why I say that is like it's taken them about 5 months to get mining, and they've learned so much from that, and they've done that once.
And
Now
they've done
they're
it
going to
well.
apply that to salvaging. Yeah. And now they're going to apply that to salvaging next year, and I think they'll try to do one more mechanic in. So that's nearly 4 core main game mechanics
And
before the beta.
yeah, and they kind of described repairing as the opposite of salvaging. So they can use the whatever they did to make salvaging and bring repairing online.
Systemically, I think that is really possible, but then the other part is they need to really go into detail with the ship materials. Like they need an entire new system of how to detail what kind of material each part of the ship is made from and all that stuff. So that's itself. But again, I'm saying about 4 to 5 months max per mechanic. And I think that's reasonable because then you'll have like 2 or 2.5 mechanics a year.
Mhm.
That's parallel to getting 5 ships every 3 months and then getting a set of a planet and its moons every 3 months as well.
Yeah.
If everything goes good, of course. At the worst case, you get a moon and like several moons and a planet every 6 months at the worst case, and like that's their production level now. So when you take that into account, I think like the way forward is just going to be more and more and more and more content. And at a certain point, whenever they said, we need those player org systems in, we need that server meshing in. Yes, they're complicated technologies. Player orgs less so, server meshing much more so.
Yeah.
But when you look at server meshing, the best example you can go to is EVE Online. They've developed server meshing in, I think it was 2-3 years it took them to develop it. And they had it pretty much very early on and in their product. And they were very good with it. Like they were holding 60,000 players in one server, totally meshed, and they had military grade hardware on it, and it worked well. So it is possible. Like it's good that there are examples out there where these technologies are, you can see them and it's doable.
Yeah, it's not like like this server meshing thing. They aren't the first ones to do it. This isn't like something that's never been done before.
So that's the good part. The bad part is, Star Citizen is so detail focused that it's so zoomed in and zoomed out at the same time. That's where the complexities come. Like that's why whenever Chris goes up the stage and says, "Look, there's been nothing done like this before." Actually, a part of Star Citizen exists in every other game, but the combination of every part of Star Citizen doesn't exist because it's insane. That's why it's taking this long. And honestly, like, yes, I understand people are frustrated, and it takes time. For me, it's the same. I've been waiting for ages I've been a backer from October 2012. But while people were going crazy, and as I was learning more of game development, it's funny, I started game development around the time where I became a backer of Star Citizen.
Okay.
2012. So as I learn more and more, I'm looking at things more like, okay, I know why this is not going that way. I know why this is not happening. And I know why people are angry, because the promises are always 10 times of the deliverables, you know?
Yeah, like, well, how
Which
about
is
this? With you as
Mm,
someone who's involved in game development, how often when now they don't promise anymore. The promises
yeah,
stopped happening a long time ago. I think we hear a
yeah,
lot of the, well, Chris promised, well, Chris promised, well, Chris promised. Well, no, he didn't. In a lot of cases, they said we hope to,
mm,
we're trying to. Like that's the words that they use now. They don't promise
they
anymore.
learned.
But
They
yeah,
learned.
they
Yeah.
learned, and they learned a while ago, and everyone just takes whatever comes out of their mouths as promises now. But we did have a um what was it, like the goals for every million. Those are
Yeah,
promises, right?
yeah, those are.
So 100-star systems, all these things are the funding goals, exactly, are were promises. And
Yeah, they were.
that's what, like, I think that's a little bit why people are starting to freak out, and I thought that that's why this was a decent topic, is because a lot of us had a view of what we wanted from Star Citizen, and this
Mm.
just was like the last Jenga block to knock everything down from that
Yeah,
original plan of what Star Citizen was, you know?
if you want to look at that, what happened, like it's a double-edged sword, right? In game
Yeah.
development, when you want to crowdfund, you need to grab a lot of attention. You need to be big, you need to be loud, and you need to have some kind of experience that you can show for. And CR had all of that, and he brought it to the table. And yes, it was a bit too much. I completely think it was like the promises were a little bit more, but at the end of the day, the result is that they can actually achieve what they've promised by just going, all out.
They just need
And it
time.
might not, they just need time, yeah. And the thing is, it's all about getting the money, right? In my opinion, like without money, you can't do a project like this. It's impossible.
I know, and then
So
people
to
get
get,
so mad at them for wanting to get the money. Me included.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
get
and
I get
and
annoyed by it sometimes.
it's normal that they want it, but like I think it just enables them to do more, right? Because it's if it wasn't a passion project, they wouldn't have spent all this money on all that they're spending, right? They would
Yeah.
have spent like way less and then just save that money off somewhere else and then disappear a couple of years later, which is what a lot of skeptics are looking at, and in that perspective, because they don't understand what's happening, right? They don't understand the passion, they don't understand the investment, they don't understand the technological establishments that they're making. And
Yeah.
it is it I th- if I look back, yes, it was too much. Like generally my view of things is you under promise and you over deliver. That's my look at game development. That's the
Yeah.
best way to do it. But with crowdfunding, with a project at this scale, it's all in or all out. Like something like this, it needs to be crazy, so it needs that crazy money, and to get that crazy money you got to get people really 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 excited.
Yeah.
And that's where the debate comes in, if that is, you know, just or unjust. But like, I don't want to go into that part.
Yeah,
But
that's, I
at
mean,
the end of the
that's up
day,
for another topic on another Answer the Call, I
yeah.
guess.
But at the end of the day, I think they're closer to the end goal that they've ever been. And while previously sitcoms were about content that will come a year or a year and a half or 2 years later, we're at a point where the tech debt has been paid so much off that a sitcom is showing what's going to come in 1 month, you know?
Yeah.
And that is a huge step forward. And in my opinion, in 2.5 years, we'll be looking at this and we're like, okay, salvaging is in, okay, repair is in, and then trade has been, like the trading mechanics have been upgraded to the second level, and then mining is a bit better. So like all of these things will come together, and then we'll be like, yeah, you know what, this is just running on its own. It's just going. We don't have to. Yeah, nice. It's nice to have new locations, which they'll add.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's the systems that combine, not arbitrary number of areas.
Yeah. I mean, well, I want to talk about a little bit about that point about, well, the fact that they're showing stuff that's going to release in a month, and that's a step forward. I think that that's not what I would expect to see from any other CitizenCon in the future. I think that was a result of, we're all in on OCS. We weren't doing much work on anything else because we were all in on OCS, and other features that we would have wanted to show were dependent on OCS being done, so we never finished those. And now we really only have this to show. While what they showed was pretty cool, I think in future Citizen Cons, I would imagine we're going to see stuff that is further out, like we have seen at Gamescoms and Citizen Cons in the past.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, definitely. I think there was a lot of attention on this, but like the result is still the same, right? At previous Citizen Cons, you wouldn't get the content. Now you are getting it literally very, very soon. So,
Yeah.
like, I think at the end of the day, it shows that they can get stuff done and, like, get it out way quicker than before. And yes, I also agree that it's gonna be much more interesting going forward, because now they have, you have to think about the gargantuan task here. Like, I've read all of the roadmap stuff and I've been following the project very closely,
Mhm.
and I don't think people still understand what OCS is. Like, it is
No,
like, I
that
would
I
say
have no clue.
upwards. I think it's upwards of like 30-40 million lines of code rewrites. Like, it is an insane task. Like, I would say it is up in the hundreds of thousands of, maybe even more, man hours, because essentially even the audio department had to rework their code. Like, you have to think the audio department has to rework their code, which is like very, I mean,
Yeah.
they just had to redo everything. It's an engine rewrite from the ground up, and it's not even like 64-bit, where in 64-bit you had parts of the engine being upgraded to the calculation, for the like large world address. And here you have the entire engine's intelligence like being rewritten to adapt to the system, because it wasn't. This engine is just an FPS engine at the end of the day. It's a CryEngine, now Lumberyard, but the core is still, it's a small map engine. That's it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it is a huge task, and it's great that it's 99% complete. And I've been playing the 3.3 build now, and I'm like, okay, you know what? This is I think the most important patch in Star Citizen history until now. Like,
I agree with that 100%. Like, I never thought that we would. I've always discussed this before, that I thought that and just before we get into the next point, I would expect us to do like a 2-3 minute call, but people are popping in having issues with their microphones and stuff like that. So we're waiting for some other callers. So we're just kind of going off on a tangent a bit for a little bit here.
okay, sure.
3.3, I never thought that I knew the improved frame rate would make me more excited about Star Citizen, more happy, and all those things. But I didn't think 3.3 would be, and OCS personally would be as smooth and as just. I never realized how important it was. They could say it all they want, but until I had it in my hands, I never could see how good it actually was. This is the first time since 2.0 came out that I can see the potential of where this game is going. Like, 2.0 was a huge drop where we got out of Arena Commander and we started to see space and a planet and places to go and things to do. And now we're seeing that there's going to be a universe for the first time, that it's possible, at least a star system for the first time, and a planet and all that stuff. Whereas before it just didn't feel that way,
Yeah. And it goes back to the point of, the Stanton itself. Like, the reason why they picked Stanton, which is a very smart design decision, it has that combination of different biomes, different corporations, different identities, different cultures, different artwork.
Yep, it was perfect.
It can, in one area, you can display so much lore and so much different art and lore, and like all the mechanics as well. They can all combine together in this area. So I think it's a very nice area. And in my eyes, if they do every city like Lorville, and with a couple of districts like Tesa Spaceport, then just Stanton itself could be the start of Star Citizen. I wouldn't mind, because
I do,
it's still
but that's because of what?
More.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's still 100 times more of any other game that I've played, because like you said, GTA 5, you have a huge city, right? You have so many activities in it. Think that, but then you'll have 20 of that in like one system, which is insane. And that amount of content with all the mechanics, with everybody trading, like thousands of people running around doing missions, I wouldn't be able to tell like, oh, this is such a small area, I can't go anywhere. Like, and in the next 3 months they'll add like, a new solar system, and it goes on like that.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of opened their hand a little bit with the trams, I think, where their cities aren't going to be fully explorable, and I don't think they ever could have been. I think it would have been incredibly boring to have these
it's
huge
boring.
open areas and not have bottlenecks to direct you to, or choke points, I guess, to direct you
Unless
to places where
you go
there's
Cyberpunk
content.
level.
But even
Like,
Cyberpunk
unless
level,
just
do we?
one city.
Yeah, one city, but there's still going to be choke points and bottlenecks directing you to content.
Yeah.
Like there's
sure.
there's no
way
way. There's no way around it. So I think this was a really good way of doing it, where we have the massive scale that Star Citizen has, but you get on a train or a tram or a monorail,
It's the best of both worlds,
and everything.
right?
Yeah.
Like you have the detail of the landing location on top of several landing locations in one area. Like that's their design goal, right? Every city has 3, maximum 4 different landing zones, or like, let's say areas of interest, where it's just like a suburb. You're walking around. It's, let's say, a square kilometer or something, or 2 square kilometers. You can just enjoy the area, see the culture, see the lore, feel the area, and get the missions, do all the stuff. And at the same time, you don't see the boring parts of the city. Like it's actually eliminating a boring part of gameplay, which is like walking through just a neighborhood.
Exactly.
Just any neighborhood.
All right. Well, we have another caller on the line. So before you go, what is your, at the end of the day, you think it's going to be about 2020? What do you think the minimum viable product will look like at release?
For me, it's 5 gameplay mechanics like trading, mining, salvaging, repair, and bounty hunting.
Okay.
And with a full solar system fleshed out with more than 150 or 100 so points of interest that are connected to each other. So basically something that supports refinery, mining, trading, salvaging, piracy, and different lawlessness, law, and all that stuff, everything combined, one system. And that one system will be anything larger than anybody has ever seen, content and area-wise, I think, in any other game.
Okay.
That will be for me enough. Yeah.
All right, ASN, I'm going to let you go. That was a great call.
Thanks.
Thank you for stopping by.
Enjoy
I hope
your
to see you.
day.
I hope to talk to you next time on the next topic, man. That was a lot of fun.
All right.
Later, dude.
Later.
All right, and then we got Der Brutali on the line. I was told that his mic might be a little loud, so prepare yourselves. But I've lowered him in preparation, so I might have to raise him at the start. All right? Der Brutali, what's up, man?
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Hi, a first-time Discord user here. All right.
First-time caller,
so
long-time listener?
I'm watching your stream from time to time, and as you can hear, my English is not my first language, so I hope you
sound
me.
Perfect. You sound fine.
I'm a software developer for an MMO.
Okay.
And just want to share my thoughts on this. First of all, I really hope, of course, that Star Citizen will be a success.
Of course.
They have a great vision, and I think that Roberts really wants to truly get this done, right? I have to say that I'm very skeptical, like many others too, and I have to strongly disagree about what just was that from your other just add in, and that is that I don't think that the amount of gameplay features really matter, to determine how successful Star Citizen will be.
Why? Because I disagree completely. Because as a player, but go ahead.
Well, from my perspective, what is really important is to just have, just one really works, right?
One gameplay element that really works, like for example, mining.
I understand that the vision of Star Citizen is to have universe of activities you can do, and to bring excitement into that. I feel like is that until now, when I watch these streams and players and I play myself, is that people play with somehow those mechanics will become and I just don't see this happening because
you cut out for 1 second, so can you repeat the game mechanics will become?
Basically, my point is, that even if you add, another game mechanic, that it will not be the lacking of other gameplay features. Surprising, that I have trouble to communicate my point with that, but
no, you're communicating it fine.
This,
it's the internet that's having a little problem.
Okay. Basically, if you have 10 gameplay features which are from the fun factor point, slightly inferior to an average game with just maybe 2 gameplay features, the enjoyment of the game will be significantly lowered and not interesting to not share this enthusiasm towards this vision, right?
Okay.
And,
well then, here, let me ask you this then. If you feel that way, so you feel that if they do a couple gameplay elements really well, and then obviously the 12 pillars that they want to do for release, technology-wise, what do you see Star Citizen being then? So I'll ask the same question that I asked to ASM before I let him go. For you, what is Star Citizen's minimum viable product? And what would a really well done couple of gameplay systems look like to you?
Yeah, well, I think space combat,
is a huge one for sure. Yeah.
I mean, I think this was the original pitch, right?
Absolutely.
And a stunning space shooter, to the PC platform, and that this is I think the only way, to make Star Citizen successful is in order to bring space combat to a part that is at least
space combat touches all of the gameplay elements, does it not? With, if I'm going to be a miner, I still have to have the fear of being attacked by a pirate, and then how to defend yourself from it, and then that brings in now. So am I? Let me understand this correctly. Like when you say space combat, you're talking about a really well done space combat that has interdiction, well balanced, all of that stuff. So there's more. I think like a lot of the players, me included, start to look at things like interdiction being a separate mechanic from space combat, but it really just is space combat, right? It's an element of it.
Yeah, and of course, what I'm afraid about is that there might be a conflict between the goals that Robots has, about all these immersive elements, about walking in a space station, and a gameplay area with a lot of elements, that this might interfere fundamentally with the possibility to make this MMO universe at least very fun.
Do you think that they've kind of maybe changed the way of what's important because of? Are you familiar with the vote that they did like a number of years ago to say what kind of gameplay elements is the community interested in? And most of them were a significant portion of them were more interested in non-combat gameplay rather than combat gameplay. And do you think that's what we're all hung up on now because that's what we want out of the game? And do you think that it might hinder the development of the space combat because these non-combat related elements are more important to the overall backing community at this point?
Yeah, well, I think, players generally want everything, right? And
of course, yeah.
And I think that's an issue you always have to consider as a game developer, right? I mean, you can listen only to a limited amount to the players and to their voices, at least. I mean, of course, you get the feedback then in the end about how successful your game is, but you have to, really settle into a core element of your game. And and I just, I've been talking with many, people, not just in my company, but in others too. And they see this as something very clear. It's not just that, okay, well, you can have whatever, what is a fun game? Of course, it's very subjective. But any game must have that is just fun, and just connecting, not as fun as what most people nowadays expect, will not make the experience fun enough.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. I definitely see your point though now. When you bring up, because I was kind of stuck on gameplay elements are mining, salvaging, trading, and if they do space combat really, really well, they still have a really good game. But I still think that it might get boring and they need those other things. Like what is a pirate going to do if he doesn't have little miners to pick on,
See that, but my problem, what I already mentioned, is I think it's been discussed already plentiful, is that the conflict between the time it takes to approach a certain playing area, be it for mining or anything else,
is too long, in my opinion.
Space station, and on those matters, if you, I understand your point, of course. You can always bring more excitement to a game, add others as well. But I think that as being a center, at least that's what I believe it should be. There should be compatible with this one core element that really drives the experience for the players.
Yeah.
I see an issue that this might not be taken care of enough with these the time it takes to approach those areas. That many things will fall apart once you want to really get this done well, right? The space combat.
Yeah. Oh, true. All right. Well, thank you for your insight. It's cool that we had two software developers pop in that are involved in games and can kind of, because this stuff always comes up where I have my concerns or my issues, but I come from somebody from such an ignorant standpoint where I don't know anything of what it's like to make a game. Not one element. The only thing that I know about how to make a game is what CIG decides to show us. And I have to try to learn from that somehow. But in the end, I don't sit at a computer and write any code or anything or know anything about it. So it's really nice to have the insight from the last two callers about kind of how this stuff works and what's important, right? Where I stopped looking at space combat as anything important because for me, some other elements were way, way more important. But now we're kind of running out of time and there's two callers that are waiting. So I want to give them some time. So Derbertali, thank you so much for calling in. Let's do this again next time. All right. Thank you so much, man. All right. So we have Avatar Kava on the line next. Hey, Avatar, you're on Answer the Call. What's up, man?
Hey, Twerk, how's it going?
Good. How are you? So what's your minimum viable product?
You've got a third developer in a row.
Another developer. Whoa. I didn't know that this many people watched me.
Though. Not games.
Not games. Okay. Why do you watch somebody so ignorant and dumb like myself with all this stuff? And are you not facepalming the entire time?
We're not.
Okay.
So after watching, I really think that this could be a good change in direction from what they've had.
Okay. Why?
Kind of echoing ASN's point that those underlying systems need to be built in order to get those gameplay loops done.
Yeah.
And I feel like if the promises are hundreds of systems and, millions of planets or however it all plays out, most of that's going to be procedurally generated and then touched up. That's really what they've always talked about. Without those pieces in place, they really can't ever get to any of those hard numbers that everybody's looking for.
Yeah, of course. They have to do this to get to that.
Right. And I think some of the difficulty they've had is we talked about sort of that wishes and hopes. Chris doesn't really promise anything anymore.
Yeah.
As much as he doesn't use those words, you don't really have many developers out there that are doing that kind of thing. The whole Kickstarter thing is new, right? To game development.
Yes.
So I think part of the difficulty they're having is, as Star Citizen backers, we of course we know better, most of us at least. we can distinguish between those, but I think your normal
like the Angry Joe show,
the normie. Yeah, the normie.
He's basically a normie when it comes to Star Citizen, right?
Right.
He's great with his game commentary with a lot of other things, but this is something different.
For sure. And he's comparing it, on the level to something that you'd see out of EA or Blizzard, where you're not going to see that stuff until the product is pretty locked in. I mean, they've already got their MVP out internally.
Yeah.
So I think that's really what we're running into, the difficulty that everybody's having, why I think there's so much negative pushback maybe from this one. I feel really positive about it, but why I think there's so much negativity is you're looking at what everyone thought was going to be an MVP, which was a complete, fully fleshed out, look at WoW from release to where it is now.
I think we thought at least multiple star systems, jumping from one system to another.
And I would say that I think that we might get that before release, because it's going to be really difficult to have meshing without proving out that one system.
Exactly.
I know that kind of got left by the wayside.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of those will be in. It may be 2 systems, it may not be 100.
Yeah.
But I think they do need to get at least those portions, the major portions of the gameplay loop, done before they can ever think about really releasing.
Yeah, I mean, you can't tell me that there's no way. I think that's what a lot of people's fears are. There won't be multiple star systems. It's not. You might have a gameplay experience, but it's not Star Citizen if you can't go see the Xi'an or the Banu or possibly go into a Vandal system and get attacked, or Vandal encroach on your system at least. So I think that's one of the things where it's Chris Roberts that's up there. While he is very good in front of the camera and very good at talking, at times he's not a PR guy. This isn't what he does professionally necessarily. He makes games professionally. And maybe that's one of the things that got missed in that discussion is maybe multiple star systems is part of server meshing.
Right.
And that
he can definitely be clearer in his communication for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anybody who's going to say that that's not the case.
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of used to it at this point, I think, but obviously the normies are not going to be. So, yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I do hope they get to a point where more people are comfortable that we're closer. But I think as we've seen really the last couple of months, until those underlying systems come in, it's a lot of stuff gets plugged in at the last second and hooked up. And you're not going to see all of those gameplay loops until late. But we have seen, I think, pretty marked progress over the last 6, 8, 12 months, last few release cycles. I mean, mining
have been great.
Has been great, I think. Even though I'm not into that as a profession, I think.
But you have to respect the implementation of it.
Exactly. It came in really clean. Yep. People have done a good job with it. And I think if they can have that type of momentum towards everything else that they're talking about, whether it be salvage or anything else down the road, they're going to be in really good shape.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Avatar. I guess I'll leave you with the last thing. What does your minimum viable product look like? What is a day in your minimum viable product?
So I think if they get that second star system in, so you do have the travel, that ability to do interstellar travel. And I think if they get the mining in, salvage, certainly the rest of the economy aspects, at least in initial implementation of those, so we can kind of see how those play out, the dynamic economy. I think that gets, and full persistence, I think is obviously clean. How far they get on server meshing, I guess we'll see how tough that one is to tease out. I don't know.
I feel like that's the next OCS.
Right. Yeah. I think it's going to be tough to get that 1,000 versus 1,000 capital ship battle going. That's going to be probably the last thing before they plug it in. So, I mean, I think what they had is the 12 pillars lines up with what we would expect.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks for the call, Avatar. Again, that was Avatar Kava. Thank you again, buddy. Appreciate it. I'm having a lot of fun with this. This is really cool. So we have one more call, a Cell Evo. I know we're going a little bit over time, over our half an hour, but we gave ASN some time to make people feel comfortable for coming in. So we're going to bring a Cell Evo in. A Cell Evo, what's up, man? You're on Answer the Call.
Hi, Twerk.
How are
you? Well, thank you.
Are you a game developer?
No, I'm a gamer.
Good. We need a gamer's perspective. Make me feel comfortable. I feel so ignorant next to those guys. I was gonna say stupid, but no. I just like they're so much more in on that side of things than our side. So what's your minimum viable product?
So basically, for me, because I didn't back Star Citizen during its Kickstarter because I think it was just like hangars and missions or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not really what I envisioned for a game like this to be, because I used to play EVE Online. I used to play Freelancer.
Okay.
I used to play all those games. And to me, in EVE Online, what was always lacking was the immersion, FPS immersion. I hated combat in EVE, even though I was battling for years, and it was always like, I'm going to click again. It's just, I'm not piloting the ship. I don't feel it. And basically for me, what Star Citizen's most valuable product will be, it's just like a beta system with 200 players per server. It doesn't even have to be an MMO.
Okay.
It just can have like servers where we can, play while they develop it even more if they earn more money, of course. And just a linear, beautiful cinematic campaign. That's it.
Okay. You definitely have a different opinion than I think a lot of people do about it. And that's interesting. I think you have a bit of a different take. And it's nice to hear. Is that so you can do like, for you it would be a Fallout 76, a Conan Exiles, a Rust
for the
style
beta,
experience.
For the beta at least, like just so we can feel it, and if they can, because I understand that it's really hard, and I've been following game development for years, but I've never gotten into it because I've been into other things. But to me, it's a beautiful thing what they're doing, and I can imagine how hard it is code-wise and programming-wise, even audio-wise, because I'm a musician myself, and I like to dabble in audio engineering, and I can think that it's really hard for them even to do things that they have done already. So it's a beautiful thing. I wish them good luck, but for me, like, I'm optimistic for like a minimal product that we can just play for hours and not get like crashes and stuff like that.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think definitely are on the lower end of what people expect, but I think with server meshing, I think you will be pleased because again, the minimum viable product is when they feel it's released, and they said it won't be there until they have that server meshing. So once they have that server meshing, it might be 200 people per server, but they're going to, kind of melt them together so that it never feels that way, So I think overall you will be pleased. Maybe, over the next year, your experience is going to be exactly that. I think we're starting to get that cinematic, first-person, beautiful experience, like right now with this patch, because now we have the frames, and the beautifulness has always been there. So now we just need a little bit more people, a little bit more action, some NPCs going around, obviously some less bugs. And for you, I think you're going to be enjoying the game really soon. For, I think, a majority of the community, I think they want a bit more. And I think what they want is a few years down the line. But, I don't know, an interesting take as well. So, all right, Asel, since we're pretty far over time, I think we're like 15 minutes over time, I'm going to let you go. But in 2 weeks, we'll have another topic. And here, I'll let you go, Asel. Have a good one. Thank you so much.
Enjoy,
see you next time, man. This went way better than I expected. So I think in 2 weeks, we're going to do this again. There'll be a whole nother topic. There is a voting section in the Discord now called ATC Questions under the Answer the Call category, I guess. So if you need that link will be in the description below in the video. So again, this was Answer the Call. It's a 30, I guess, to 45-minute now podcast where occasionally we have content creators come in and talk about a single topic for about half an hour. This is the other portion of it where the viewers of the Twitch stream, which we're live on twitch.tv/Torque17 at Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern time. I think that is 1 p.m. UTC. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, or in the Twitch chat. But I believe it's 1 p.m. UTC, and you guys can come on and vote on what the topic will be each week, as well as come in and give your opinions on that topic. So I'm pretty excited for doing this in the future. It started off a little rough, but then I think ASN got everybody really, really nice and comfortable. I think this is a different way of doing a podcast. I think it's a different way of doing a Star Citizen podcast, and I'm really, really happy with it. So as always, the little YouTube ending stuff. If you like the video, please hit a like button on it. Hit the like button on it. Share it anywhere with your friends, anywhere you think it's relevant. And hit that subscribe button for more videos like this in the future. And obviously, leave a comment below on what your minimum viable product is in Star Citizen. I'd love to hear what you think. All right? And then maybe next time you'll come live and give your opinion on whatever the topic is. All right, thanks, guys. See you in the next video.